Ubisoft has canned a big sequel and the boys are back from Japan. This is VGC, a video game podcast with me, Jordan Midler, Chris Scullion and Andy Robinson. Now boys, what time did we get up at this morning? Chris, you tell me.
Ohio gozaimasu, Jordan-san. Ohisashiburi desu. So genki desu
He's gone native.
So I'm trying to get this Japanese out my system. Okay, I'm up and down all over the bloody clock now. Just I've technically the jet lag's done now, but I'm just shattered permanently anyway. So it's hard to tell what's from Japan and what's just normal.
Fair, Andy.
I've mastered jet lag, mate. I am the master of my own time universe.
Yeah.
I think it did us a favour because basically it's all about what time you land, right? I've been horrifically jet lagged for like 15 years of travelling, and it's taken me until now to be really annoyed to discover that it was just because I was getting on the plane at the wrong time of day.
Yeah.
Like when I went to Summer Game Fest a couple of months ago, I had to get the latest flight they did because I was coming from Prague for the football, and it was like, oh wow! It turns out if you land at 8:30, have a beer and go to bed, you wake up at 8 a.m. Rather than landing at 2 in the afternoon and having to like struggle. It was like as if you've been left in a desert, you know, by some thieves, like crawling your way to 8 p.m. when you can get 4 hours sleep and wake up at midnight anyway, and stare at Twitter for 6 hours and do it all over again. No, like it was the same with Japan. I always go first thing in the morning, which I did earlier this year, super jet lagged, and then this one, our flight got cancelled and we went at 1 p.m. And it turns out if you land later in the day, it's fine. That's my story.
It was full on drama. I was like following it on my phone when you were like, mate, it's all gone wrong. I was like, I'm going to get a text with him being like,
let's not get started
because this podcast will be twice as long. We don't want this.
Everyone in my life has had to hear this story. I was telling it to my barber yesterday.
But like considering I was, Andy were basically joined at the hip for 10 days. Like every time we were meeting new people, Andy was like, "Wait to hear this." Oh, for fuck!
When you went and got scanned by Kojima, the scan got fucked up because you just wouldn't stop talking about British Airways. I look forward to seeing you in Death Stranding too. Speaking of a sequel we won't be getting, let's do some headlines. This is a VGC scoop. Ubisoft has cancelled its Immortals Fenyx Rising sequel. That's according to multiple development sources who told VGC anonymously that the follow-up game was in early development at Ubisoft Quebec, but the company leadership ultimately decided to cancel it early this month due to perceived challenges around establishing the IP. Now we have a response from Ubisoft which says it's reallocating some creative teams and resources within the Quebec studio. Quote, as part of our global strategy, we are redirecting and reallocating some creative teams and resources within Quebec studio to other unannounced projects. Now thankfully we have the man himself, Andy Robinson, on the show this week. Tell us more about this, Andy.
Well, I do have more to tell about this actually, not on purpose but by coincidence. So they sent me this statement saying, essentially confirming the story, because Ubisoft have got so many studios in so many territories that usually when something happens and you get a tip, it's very easy to verify, because everyone knows. So since they kind of sent me this statement confirming that the sequel essentially has been cancelled, which I was told it was like kind of like first playable stage. I think Jeff Grubb from Giant Bomb had like a bunch of details last year about that it was based on like Hawaiian mythology and he had a code name and stuff. But yeah, so the story that I've reported is that it's been cancelled earlier this month. It doesn't come as a big surprise to anyone following the company because they've had some bad financial results in the last year. They're obviously very much in transition after the scandals which caused a large portion of their senior employees to leave, including ones who weren't affected. It's understandable that a lot of people didn't want to stick around. And they're in the situation now where they don't have like the other big publishers, a FIFA Ultimate Team or a GTA Online that just pays the bills while they have slow years. Like they need to release stuff. They don't have a big, a live service game. I mean, the closest thing they've got is Rainbow Six, but that's of a completely different scale. So it's not a surprise really they're cancelling these games because they're focusing all in on all of their biggest stuff. I mean, Immortals Fenyx Rising, I know we didn't like it.
2 stars on VGC, famously.
Yeah, indeed. Who gave it that? But generally, it was well received. I'm told that it sold okay, but in context, it sold something like, I believe it was 30% of what Assassin's Creed Valhalla did, and a lot of those sales would have been heavily discounted as well. So they released this statement, but basically, essentially confirming the story. And I've since been told that Quebec City, or Quebec, Ubisoft Quebec, who are making this game, are now, guess what, working on an Assassin's Creed game. I don't think, I mean, this I've not really looked into this because I wasn't really planning on reporting this, to be honest. So I think it's another unannounced one, because I don't think they're attached. Like, this is leading one, not supporting one. So I think this is yet another Assassin's Creed game. You know, it's an Activision scenario where pretty much everyone's working on an Assassin's Creed in the company at the moment, because they're doing that live service thing, Infinity or whatever it's called, where you can access lots of different kind of time periods and games within this portal, which will come out. They've announced something like 6 Assassin's Creed games, I think. So I believe this is another one that they were already working on in tandem to, you know, early work on this Immortals sequel. And it sounds like, like a lot of the staff have been pulled off of that and put onto this Assassin's Creed game, although not all of them, I understand, want to work on it. So there's a bit of like, you know, bit of strife going on there. But yes, that is the story, which will surprise absolutely nobody.
The cynic in me wonders if this is going to be an Assassin's Creed game set in Hawaii, and just put a lot of stuff over. But we'll see. That's interesting.
I was surprised that Immortals Fenyx Rising, formerly Gods and Monsters, as everyone remembers, before Monster Energy Drink,
which it turns out was a better name.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's literally, I searched VGC for some context, some background, so previous reporting on this story, and it's obviously EA have got their own Immortals game coming out this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. Like, I think the game got a bit of a bump because it was released in November or just the start of December 2020. So when
in between two other open world Ubisoft games.
I do remember
which
at the time.
I'm told that even internally they were like, what the fuck? Didn't they release it right in between Watch Dogs and Assassin's Creed Valhalla? Yeah.
I even remember at the time how quickly it was discounted, because I'd got it, I'd get sent a copy, and I was like, I'm going to start this, and I didn't get around to playing it. But even like a couple of weeks in, like, it was massively discounted, and I thought, well, already? I've not even broken the seal on it yet, and it's like down to like 20 quid already. Like, the price plummeted on that one so much quicker than most other games released during that time frame. It was really surprising.
Plummeted as soon as the VGC review came out. But yeah, the idea that they're moving to Assassin's Creed, the current Assassin's Creed slate is Assassin's Creed Mirage, which is out this year and I think looks fantastic. Nexus VR, which is kind of a different thing. Infinity, which is the nebulous live service connecting threads to all of them.
Assassin's Creed Ultimate Team, basically.
Assassin's Creed Ultimate Team. Apparently, Assassin's Creed Codename Red is the one that is. This is listed as a Ubisoft Quebec joint, so this might be their 2024 one.
Oh, so maybe that's the one I'm talking about. I couldn't see if they already announced that they were leading something.
Yeah, it's the Feudal Japan one. That might just be a bit Ghost of Tsushima. Watch that come out at the same time as Ghost of Tsushima 2. And then Assassin's Creed Codename Hexa, which is the Montreal Studios one. Oh, and Codename Jade. There's 50,000 Assassin's Creed.
I think there's six. There's 6, I think.
Yeah. There's also
50,000, give or take 6.
There's also Assassin's Creed Invictus, which is a standalone multiplayer experience.
Prince Harry's Assassin's Creed game.
It's about rugby.
Yeah. This is a strange one. Is Ubisoft just shitting themselves because things haven't been hitting? Do they need?
No, but essentially, yeah. I mean, I've pretty much explained it. You know, they need some big hitters.
Yeah.
They don't have that big giant mega service game to keep them going in a quiet year. I mean, you look at 2K, right? 2K are in the privileged position where, but if the game's not very good, they just won't put it out. I mean, they have years where they just don't really release anything.
Yeah.
Because GTA Online is just pays their bills. You know, they could not release another game for like the next 5 years and still be quite comfortable. I mean, EA's pretty much the same, right? They have quiet years. I mean, they get FIFA out, the installment, but still, Ultimate Team is just a monster.
Yeah.
Ubisoft tried to kind of make one of those. I mean, the amount of like battle royales it's tried to launch and even cancelled is pretty ridiculous. So yeah, they're under a bit of pressure, right? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see some of its games come in pretty hot in the next year. I mean, that's what I was told as well. Pretty much every game at Summer Game Fest, the big games, every kind of developer I spoke to off the record was like, yeah, this is coming in hot, you know, including Avatar, which I thought looked pretty good. But I mean, that's what players are used to now. I think our post-pandemic is everything launches with a shit ton of bugs, right?
Oh yes.
At the end of the day, once Skull and Bones comes out, that'll save the day.
Yeah.
That is like, yeah.
As the number one,
I mean, they've got I mean, obviously they've got an agreement with allegedly they've got an agreement with Singapore, like with some sort of like tax breaks where they have to bring that game out. Otherwise, it would be well canned.
Yeah.
Like that would have been canned several times over.
I genuinely think.
I mean, press were due to see it at Summer Game Fest, and then they pulled it at the last minute. And then instead we just had like a pirate band.
Yeah, they didn't pull the sea shanty band.
Yeah, which they borrowed from Sea of Thieves. Just got on the blower to Rare and said, you know that band you use?
That was the best bit of the whole showcase. me, Tom, and Chris were just sitting watching it, being like, "Is this really happening?"
I mean, you always, as a journalist, you welcome these moments because they give you a chance to rest or finish the stories you're working on. It's like, yes, give us a 20-minute sea shanty.
More musical interludes.
Exactly. Get Just Dance out here. Is Just Dance still kicking a ball?
I got a lot of time for that. I got a lot of time that they still do Just Dance.
Yeah,
and also they deserve kudos. Ubisoft, they get a lot of shit because it's easy to shit on them, but they used to until now try a lot of original IP, and also they were the only company who did a proper live showcase during Summer Game Fest.
Yeah,
all the other ones were canned, you know, pre-recorded, including the Xbox One, which looked especially cowardly considering they actually had a pissing like a theatre where everyone sat in and watched the recording, and all the people were there. Phil Spencer, Sarah Bond, they came out, hi everyone, here's the recording. You know, I'm sure they got a million like excuses why that's the fact, and many of them will be valid, but I'm going to applaud Ubisoft for doing it live like the old days and putting themselves up to some real scrutiny in terms of crowd reaction and stuff. I mean, you can't take the piss, you know, when announcements flop if it's pre-recorded.
Yeah, and that's half the fun. Speaking of Ubisoft says it won't delete inactive accounts that have purchased games. This is clarifying a statement made by its support Twitter account over the weekend. A user claimed to have received an email from Ubisoft warning that if they did not click a link to keep their account active, the account, including all purchased games, would be closed and made inaccessible. Ubisoft support Twitter seemed to confirm this, writing, quote, "We just wanted to chime in that you can avoid account closure by logging into your account within 30 days and selecting cancel account closure, link contained within the email." In a statement to DualShockers, Ubisoft has now clarified the matter, saying that while it does indeed legally have to close inactive accounts, this doesn't apply to accounts that have purchases tied to them. This created quite a bin fire over the weekend. Chris, when you first heard this, what was your reaction?
It was like, huh? And then I read, and then I read it, and then I was more filled in. It's yeah, I can understand how initially people were quite concerned about it, but it also is another case of Twitter kind of jumping in with both feet on a story. It's like it certainly Ubisoft didn't help matters because their support team on Twitter did certainly seem to. Nobody came out and said, "Oh, by the way, this isn't the case." They actually just said, "Oh, yeah, actually."
Ubisoft blundering the messaging.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
In a first.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't a story if Ubisoft don't respond to this guy and go like, "Yep, yeah, hold on to your video games."
Yeah, so that was a bit weird. But in hindsight, yeah, essentially, if you've the only people who should be worrying are people who It's not even a worry. The only people who this will affect is people who last generation were console players and signed up for was it Uplay or whatever it used to be called, the Ubisoft
points.
account, where you had to sign up for a Ubisoft account to get special achievements that would unlock new outfits and stuff. Those people never purchased any PC games because they were console only. So if they haven't signed in for like 4 or 5 years or whatever it is Ubisoft said, then those are the accounts that will be closed. If you bought a PC game through Ubisoft like 5 years ago and haven't touched your account since, it will still be there essentially, because once there's a purchase tied to it, it's kind of locked in forever. But of course, like Andy says, this would have been saved a lot of hassle if Ubisoft had just clarified that at the start instead of kind of seemingly egging it on accidentally.
It's in the same school of thought as when the Bethesda support was like, yeah, there's no discs for Starfield. And then everyone goes absolutely spare, and then they clarify and like, yeah, there is in fact discs. It was a weird one because, I mean, as someone that has reviewed Ubisoft games for years and years and years, there are few people on earth that have more Uplay points than me. So every year I go in and I unlock Ezio's costume for the new Assassin's Creed game, and that's basically it.
That's all it's there for.
Yeah, it's like, do you want to download wallpapers? I bet when Skull and Bones comes out, I have every ship in the game day one.
Although, to be fair, I did use it to unlock new costumes for my avatar in Wheel of Fortune.
Nice,
so there's that at least.
But yeah, this was a bit of a strange one, but I'm glad Ubisoft just came out and was like, I mean, we're obviously not going to delete accounts that have purchases. Steam also has a provision in its terms that's like, if you're inactive for a certain period of time and you've purchased something, they might put your account in like a kind of stasis state and change your name and hide it and stuff. But if you log back
Ubisoft Jow.
Yeah, and the Ubisoft Gill.
I mean, it is all to do with the GDPR law, which basically says you can't hold information on someone for a long period of time if they're deemed inactive. And so obviously once you buy a game, presumably in terms with that, it kind of suggests that, I'm now active for as long as I own that game, so that gets around that. But yeah, certainly anyone else has signed up for an account and then just didn't use it again, kind of legally they have to wipe it after a period of time, because just for in case there's ever a leak or anything like that. I'd imagine that's the reason.
Yes, but everyone calm down. Story number 3, it looks like Insomniac is working on a third game alongside Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine. That's according to a live stream held by the Full Sail University, home of NXT, Chris. You'll remember that?
Yeah,
last September, which is now.
And also Tough Enough.
And also Tough Enough, exactly. Lest we forget, God rest it.
God rest it.
Now being circulated on social media. In the stream, project director Erin Eberhardt claimed that they were helming an unannounced project at the studio. Quote, this is actually my first AAA game project now. I'm the project director here on an unannounced project. Do we think this is Ratchet & Clank, Andy?
Well, yeah. I mean, you'd be mad if you think they're not working on a Ratchet & Clank game, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've not looked back at their historic output, but they must do a Ratchet & Clank every couple of years, right?
It's every 3-ish.
Yeah. So that would be my guess. Although I'm not completely convinced by this story, to be honest. I'm not convinced that, I don't know. I know she. I look stupid in the face of the quotes, because she literally says she's working on a AAA game project. So yeah, it is what it is. But still, like, I mean, her background is she works on Blizzard's esports initiative. She works on PlayStation Now. So I don't know. Like, is this a big full game, or is this like something else that they're building? I don't know. But I'll take her words at face value. Then yes, I would assume that it is Ratchet & Clank, right? Because Marvel now pays the bills, but that's a big IP that probably portfolio-wise ticks a big box for Sony in terms of like family content. There's not a lot of other of their first-party studios kind of doing that sort of game. They're busy doing the AAA stabbing games.
Hell yeah.
So that would be my guess. Yes.
Could it be another Sunset Overdrive now that Sony owns it?
No chance. I think they will put that first game out on PlayStation, and if it does like exceedingly well, and not just with the absolute psychopaths that pretend it was like some amazing revolutionary thing, they'll maybe start up again. But
I mean, the creative director's there. He's back. He's rejoined from Xbox, but I believe he's working on Spider-Man.
Yeah. So if you look at their output the past couple of years, it was 2018 was the first Spider-Man, And then 2020 they had Miles Morales. 2021 Rift Apart. This year we're getting Spider-Man. You presume Wolverine's next year, late next year, maybe 2025. Then a year after that, another Ratchet kind of falls into the cycle. Maybe just in time for the PlayStation 5 Pro that we're all absolutely buzzing about. The thing is, Ratchet's obviously a big franchise for Sony, big enough that they decided to make a film about it. That film was like not great and didn't do terribly well, but outside of Ratchet, does Sony have any like family-friendly IP that they can put on a trailer?
Astrobot. Astrobot.
Well, yeah.
That's it.
Buzz.
Much, yeah.
Bring back Buzz.
Yeah. Bring back Buzz.
Bring back Buzz with mobile controllers. Job done.
Genuinely, that would be a good idea. But they had
SingStar.
SingStar.
Does SingStar still pick a ball?
iToy. No, it's not. SingStar's not. Hasn't been a thing for a decade. But SingStar used to be absolutely massive. SingStar and Buzz. But again, those were the games that were made, by the territories outside of America, which they decided to put in the bin.
Yeah, well deserved. God bless America. Speaking of PlayStation and PlayStation's misguided current plans, Project Q runs Android, and there's pictures of it out in the wild.
Project Poo.
There we go.
Lovely.
End the podcast.
Wordplay.
Don't say you don't get QI-esque rhetoric on this podcast. The images appear to confirm that the machine will be Android-based. These popped up on Imgur, where a guy with some very clumsy fingers was seemingly trying to dig his nails into the screen to see what was underneath it. The one thing that's came out of this is people have been like, oh well, we can just put weird shit on it. Chris, as a man who spends daft money on stuff he doesn't need, where is your hype level for the Project Q? Are you right up the top here?
It's like if you were to dig a hole under this floor and dig down for at least 20 feet, you would find the hype level nestled underneath an old disused water well. I don't understand. I don't get it. It's doing what mobile phones do. You can already stream PlayStation games on your phone. Why do you need this?
Can you? I don't think you can stream PS5 games, right?
But can you not? I don't know. To be honest,
I thought that was the whole thing, is that you can stream PS4 games, but I don't think you can stream PS5 games.
I would need to look into the details, but either way,
again, don't care. But I think that is the. I think that's the hook.
But also the fact
you can in fact stream it to your phones.
But also
can you?
Yeah.
I still don't think that's right.
I'm currently looking at a thing that says how to set up PlayStation 5 games with remote play.
Regardless of whether
is it one of those SEO articles that says you can't?
No. It's from PC Mag. Now that's where I go.
The official Sony site.
Yeah, that's where I go for my PlayStation information. But apparently, there's a Donny here playing a PlayStation 5 game on a mobile phone.
Regardless of whether you can play PlayStation 5 games on your mobile or not, and I'm leaning towards yes.
I think you're talking about. Hold on, I'm interrupting here. It's remote play, right?
Yeah, this tablet is only remote play only.
Okay, so we're both right. Well, I mean, you can't stream PS5 games from the cloud. You can stream PS5 games from your PS5,
which makes it even more pointless, because you already need a PS5 for it. It needs to be on. So if you're in, like, let's say we go to Japan again, and I want to play PS5 games on my Project Q, and I want to play PS5 games on my Project Q, I need to phone home to the wife and say, going to turn the PlayStation 5 on, so that I can do this.
Talking your child through how to set up remote play on your PS5.
Exactly. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. But hey,
I think the bottom line is that these peripherals are incredibly profitable for PlayStation, for Sony. Like, they make a ton of money from controllers and headsets and stuff like that. The console itself is not profitable, right? And this is not just Sony. This is how the business works. They make their money through the guys who buy PS5s and Xbox Series X's from buying games and peripherals, and the peripherals are very profitable. So it's a box ticks, right? It's why they've got a 200 quid Pro controller and things like that we didn't really need either.
But I don't understand why, if it's Android based, I don't understand why they don't just go the whole hog and say, hey, this is an Android tablet with a DualSense controller attached to the side of it, so you can play Android games and also stream PlayStation 5
Maybe
games
they will.
like you can on any other device.
Maybe they will.
That has to be the angle, otherwise it's dead in the water.
I genuinely think there's a part of them that are trying to trick people into thinking it's like a dedicated handheld, because the amount of people that are shocked that you're not going, this isn't like a Switch equivalent where you're going to be downloading games on this thing, and it's just like a shell essentially.
If they come out and do an Xperia Play where they basically say this is a gaming Android tablet which also streams PS5 games through remote play. Fine.
Imagine if it's actually a phone and it's like the new N-Gage where you're holding holding a half a foot long DualSense controller to your head.
And it's coming through the wee speaker in the controller.
Yeah. We should do a video on that. Just go on the tube with the Project Q and pretend it's a new phone.
Hello! They're trigger happy.
Bring it back. The nostalgia's huge. 90s nostalgia's huge. This is a really weird thing that I'm looking forward to messing about with. Like, I am a man that has the PlayStation Vita TV.
I've got that, to be fair. That's good.
One of the most...
That is a deep cut.
Yeah.
But that has a use. That does something different. That lets you play Vita and PSP games on your TV.
Some Vita and PSP games. It doesn't let you play any Vita games that required the touchpad, which was like a massive part of the
all those
system.
hits.
Yeah, like, I'm never a big fan of these like late stage peripherals that let you play stuff without the whole fucking benefit of playing them in the first place.
Yeah. I hated that.
Like, didn't Nintendo do stuff like that as well? Like 2DS and stuff like that.
Yeah,
yeah.
You know? I hate the touchpad on the Vita anyway.
I had a back touchpad as well.
That was worse because FIFA and the Vita had that on by default. So whenever you rested your fingers on the back of the Vita, you would take a shot in FIFA without even meaning it. And that was like, yeah, never mind.
God bless the Vita. Bring it back. I want them to put out a Vita with
it
like.
Rot.
No, don't let it rot. Come on. Not the poor Vita with the OLED screen. It's a lovely machine. But honestly, at this point, I have the Steam Deck sitting here, which I put Ratchet on last night. I'm looking forward to playing that. And I had the ROG Ally for a wee while. Enough. I've got enough shite to annoy me and fill my time. I do not need the Project Q. Won't stop me buying one, though, for $700 or however much it ends up being. Next story. This is a fun one that popped up. Activision is suing a TikTok user after he threatened to sue them for using his audio. According to the company's lawsuit, TikTok user Anthony Fantano, there's some missing context here, Chris.
Okay.
That I only care about because I'm a nerd. Anthony Fantano runs the Needle Drop YouTube channel. He's like a big music reviewer. He's got like a couple of million subscribers.
Okay.
And he is a Jordan Middler lookalike. We've got the same glasses, same facial hair, same baldy head.
Well, in that case...
I'm also suing Activision, coincidentally, but it's in a separate matter. He contacted Activision in June, threatening to sue them for using the audio from one of his TikTok videos in a video for Crash Bandicoot, which served as an ad. Anyone that's on TikTok's probably seen this or heard this audio. It goes like, a fresh pie, cut me a slice, that's enough slices, screams that's enough slices, and it can be applied to anything really. So Activision used it for a Crash Bandicoot thing, and Mr. Fantano, Mr. Baldy Man, is saying, you didn't pay me for this, you're using it for advertisement. And Activision are going, well, the TikTok terms of service is 500 pages long and says we can do what we want, essentially, so we are suing you to stop you suing us. Chris, what did you make of that? The TikTok superstar Chris Scullion, what did you make of this?
I know how, I do not know how to tick nor talk. But it's a weird one because I'm not. It's obviously dangerous ground anytime you try to defend a big company because you had accusations of bootlicking and the like. But it certainly doesn't seem like this guy has much of a leg to stand on. By all accounts, Activision, if their lawsuit is accurate, they're saying that they got the sound from a TikTok library that TikTok are already approved as being free to use, and that when you sign up to TikTok, you're basically giving away all your content and saying anyone else can repurpose it. Indeed, that's half the point of TikTok is people doing these duet videos where they take an existing TikTok and slap their own face next to it. That's like kind of half the point. It feels a bit like this guy's just trying to get some money out of Activision and kind of being a bit opportunistic here, and hey, why wouldn't you? But it should also be clarified that although the headline is accurate that Activision is suing the guy, they're not looking for damages and they're not like trying to put him in jail or anything like that. All what they're looking for is what's called a declaratory judgment, which basically means they just want the court to come out and say, yeah, you didn't do anything wrong, so that this guy can't then sue them. So they're not like saying, we're going to take everything you own. They're basically suing to block him, basically from suing them. So this is one of those rare situations where I'm backing the company rather than the person, I think.
Back in Activision again.
I know.
Yeah, always back in Activision.
Bootlicking.
You always shout at me when I don't give Call of Duty 5 stars.
Famously.
Every single time. Behind the curtain, when we became verified on TikTok, my life got significantly harder, because once you're verified, you can't just use any song you want or any sound or anything like that, because it has to be cleared for commercial use. So if you go on a popular TikTok, someone's doing some stupid dance to Karma by Taylor Swift featuring Ice Spice, it'll come up and you can click on it and it'll say, this sound is not used for commercial use, approved for commercial use. You're a verified account. Look at our terrible sound library. And if this is part of that, then he's clearly signed an agreement with TikTok, and somewhere in there was probably clearance for something like that.
Is that why every single time I see a video of a Marine or someone coming home to their family, every single one uses the song "I'm coming home, coming home," because that's the only fucking one that's cleared.
If they're not verified, if you're not verified, you can use whatever the fuck you want.
These are the ones. It's always these ones always end up with millions of views, don't they? So they're like the verified ones, pricks.
So, although
I thank them for their service, though, of course.
Yeah, thanks for your service, going swimming or whatever a Marine does. There is a lot of big TikTok accounts that are verified that can use licensed material because they've got like a secret higher tier of verification. So we'll be there any minute now when I start posting Chris Scullion fan content. But yeah, this is a strange one. When we come back, I'm going to grill these two gaijin about their hoorin' and touring across Japan. Did you know that you can get involved in the show by sending an email to podcast@videogameschronicle.com? We'll read the best of them on the podcast. You can catch the audio version of the show every week on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Now back to the show. And we are back. For those who didn't notice, the past couple of weeks of the podcast have been invaded by non-VGCers, because both Chris and Andy have been in Japan for Bit Summit, of which VGC was a very proud partner. Chris, let's start from the start. You hate flying. How was the flight?
It wasn't as bad as previous flights I've had. I think because of the aforementioned, which we won't get into, hassle with BA, that kind of distracted me from it until I was actually...
Because we didn't know we were actually flying until 5 minutes before the plane closed.
So the fear of I hate flying was quickly replaced by the fear of we might not actually end up in Japan after.
The fear of I've been sat on this plane for 3 hours and it hasn't taken off, and I've not eaten and I've not drunk anything.
And the fear of I took a train from Edinburgh to London and stayed in the hotel overnight for something that might not happen. So when the plane took off, it was actually half fear and half relief. Firif, I believe they call it.
Firif,
but then so that was okay. That actually kind of helped distract me a bit. And on the way back, I was playing a Disney game, which we'll be talking about in a minute, and that kind of helped distract me as well. So it ultimately wasn't as bad as it has been in the past. I would welcome further flights of similarly sized aircraft.
Flights of similarly sized aircraft.
I don't want any wee Indiana Jones ones with propellers in the front, basically, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Andy, what was the purpose of this trip outside of you just getting pissed every night?
Well, there's a couple of Virtual Boy games I've not bought yet.
And still haven't, going by the prices.
No, yeah. So some of them are like, it's stupid. Like, I thought, okay, like, I'm not like a collect game sort of guy, but there's only like 19 Virtual Boy games or something in Japan. And when I bought a Virtual Boy when I was there with my family earlier this year, and I managed to find 10. So suddenly you're in the game, right?
Oh yeah, you're close.
Right, oh yeah, I'm going to get the other 9. So, but actually it turns out the other 9 are the ones that released like in the last month, you know, and they only made like 1,000, and I've got the easy ones. I'm sure one of them that we found was about 500 quid. Like for this game. I don't know what the game is. It's like virtual curling or something.
Virtual curling.
Yeah, so
and that's with
I
the
think,
in the bin as well.
I think that particular dream might be dead.
I would politely recommend to anyone listening who is thinking of starting their own Virtual Boy collection to buy the SNES Encyclopedia, which contains a Virtual Boy section at the back and highlights said expensive games.
And many inaccuracies.
Well, I think you'll find it's without reproach. That's the phrase.
So no. So we. I mean, I've always wanted to go to Bit Summit. I've never been to Bit Summit. You know, I'm fairly familiar with the organisers. A lot of kind of expat guys there. It always seems like a lot of fun. I've spoken to people who've been there. It sounds like a lot of fun. It's a, you know, that's kind of my bag and a lot of people's bag, right? It's an indie focused event. That's very like intimate, not too massive. Lots of networking. You get to meet interesting people, which for a news journalist is fantastic, right? Get to drink cans of overstrength Japanese cider next to a river and meet the guy who made like Pixel Junk Eden and things like that, right? So no, it was good. It was good fun. I think we got some good coverage out of it as well. Most of which has not gone up yet. You know, we made the most of it. We kind of visited a whole bunch of studios. You know, we went to see like Suda and Nagoshi, and we spoke to Jupiter, the guys who make the Picross games.
Went to Platinum.
Platinum Games, of course. I get to use Platinum's toilets, right? Like Platinum's in this massive building, this sky building in Osaka, and there's like another big skyscraper next to it. And their urinals are just like next to a window.
Nice.
Looking at the other building.
Yeah.
Making eye contact, establishing dominance.
Yeah, probably someone in the other side in the Marriott having their breakfast, watching you piss.
Speaking of interesting urinals, when I went to the Tower of London for that Final Fantasy event, you literally were pissing just watching all the rest of the tourists walk around. And then on my way out, I bumped into Yoshi P, and all I could think to say was like, hi. And then I realised that isn't hi in Japanese yes?
Yeah, it is.
So I basically just walked past this man and went, yes. That was it.
I said that to Andy actually when we were there. It's like, as a Scot, it's actually quite useful because you just say aye to everyone, and like it's one of the few phrases that actually translates without.
They reply with aye.
Aye.
So what kind of size was Bit Summit? What are we talking? Is it like convention hall? Like,
yeah, it was a kind of smallish to medium convention hall. It's very like the guys who run it are very switched on as well. Like it was kind of made when like Tokyo Game Show is this huge thing, and Kyoto's got this bustling indie scene, mostly because obviously like the roots kind of go back to the early 90s when obviously those bunch of Brits were hired by Nintendo to work on the Star Fox games, and then a lot of them kind of never left. They set up their own studios, and then they bring over more expats, and then so there's this big kind of like expat community in Kyoto making indie games. And so they identified that Tokyo Game Show really wasn't for them. Like, you know, what's this for the games we're making when it's like Yakuza and Final Fantasy and Resident Evil, and it's all about big bombast, you know, it's like an E3 style Gamescom show. They decided to make their own thing, and they're very in tune with like why it was set up and what its roots are, and they try not to dilute that. Like, it's still very, very intimate. They have on stage shows. They you know, make sure that studios of all sizes are allowed to be there, and you know, kind of stuff like, you know, the Patapon spiritual successor was announced there, and you know, kind of games of that nature. And the thing is, on those kind of shows as well, like a lot of business gets done. When it's like small and intimate, and it's, you know, there's lots of networking and whatever, you know, there's people there. You know, these indie games can get signed, right, by a publisher, or you might meet someone and you know, kind of sign a deal. So it's of that nature of show. It's very, very enjoyable if you're attending. You might not have seen so much noise from it as a reader, but I was certainly a big fan, and then hopefully we can kind of do a lot more with them in the future. I think Chris played more games than anyone attendance at that show.
Especially on the first day, because the first day was kind of media only. So it was not that it ever got massively busy, because like Andy says, it's a kind of smaller scale event, which I liked. But even though they did kind of announce like a record turnout this year, but certainly the first day, was media only, so you could kind of freely walk around all the booths. And although not every booth was set up on that day, I think over the 3 days I played like 35-40 games, which was nice. And it's again, like I've don't usually get the chance to attend many expos and stuff, because usually I'm the one on the home front writing up the news stories from the live streams. But on the occasions where I do go to them, I do tend to kind of gravitate towards the smaller games, because whenever there's big AAA games and stuff, those eventually kind of make their way to us anyway over time. Like even though they're showing off new stuff at these bigger events, those are the games we end up covering anyway. And at the end of the day, it's the smaller indie stuff that could potentially pass us by, and that's where you can find the kind of hidden gems. So a show like Bit Summit was like right up my alley, because I loved it. Like, of the 30-40 games I played, I think 2 of them I didn't like, and it's because one of them was like fully in Japanese, and I was an idiot for even sitting down to play it, and the second one was like a card based thing, and I just don't do card based, so that both were my fault.
Any mahjong?
No, but there was a Shanghai Solitaire, which I'm genuinely a fan of. So the Sunsoft booth had a new Shanghai game, which the Shanghai fanboy in me from the Game Boy days was quite excited by. I beat the kind of Shanghai game demo that was on display there, and the people at the booth seemed extremely impressed, and rightly
they were
so.
Screaming.
Exactly.
Or they were just clapping like Japanese wrestling fans do. They don't pop, they just politely clap.
I was always tempted to shout Yata like Chun-Li style, just to kind of get in the mood, but I didn't, in case it was offensive. The game of the show for me was a game called Unrestricted, which is made by an Osaka-based studio called Indie Us, and they're usually like a support studio. They've worked on Scarlet Nexus and stuff like that in the past, but this is their kind of attempt to do their own thing, and they'd done like a demo a few years back called Undefeated, which is still free on Steam, and people liked it, but apparently it was a bit broken. So this is their attempt at a second one, and it's really good. It's like an open world. It's basically like if Dragon Ball was made to look more realistic. So it's like a realistic looking Unreal Engine 5 game where you fly about, but you've just got stupid superpowers and you can carve holes in mountains and stuff like that. I really enjoyed it. So, but it's like it's not going to be out for a long time. Like, they gave me a card which said release 2025 on the card, and I looked at the guy and went 2025, and he went, yes, maybe. I was like, okay, so that's not fucking happening at all. So yeah, if it ever comes out, I think it could be good. But yeah,
nice. My next question, Chris, and do not mention the thing that I asked for, because it's currently a secret. It's currently under embargo.
Okay.
What
plus, I think it's illegal to kind of transport sex toys across the country anyway. So I probably shouldn't even say what it was.
Just no mention of it, because the person who's receiving it will be listening to this podcast very shortly. So what did you buy for Japan?
As well as your sex toys, obviously. I took like a second case just in case, and it ultimately proved to be necessary. Mainly it was like lots of gashapon shit and like second hand toys and stuff. These book up second hand stores do like loads of merch like that kind of is like dirt cheap, because people bought them and then decided that their shelves were full and then brought them back in. So I bought like mainly stuff from there. I only really bought one game because I don't really do the game collecting thing anymore. So I bought like a really good quality Pilot Wings on the Super Famicom for like $4.
Took Chris to Japan, right? Take him around Den Town, like.
Yeah, well, like fucking half an hour
came out with
closed.
Literally one game that he begrudgingly bought, and he's just like, I'm not that into it.
That's because I was quietly seething, because I thought, and Andy thought, that he'd bought a Famicom robot, which has been kind of one of my holy grails. But Andy can decide whether to reveal the ending of that one. But
it turned out it was like an expansion kit.
Sans robot. But at the end of the day, it's like it was. Yeah, I felt it was an enjoyable trip. I actually probably bought more stuff at Super Nintendo World more than anywhere else.
What did you think of it? Were you impressed?
Yeah, I liked it. I mean, I'm an easy customer anyway.
A mark.
Yeah, exactly. So I would have loved it anyway. The mild tear in the eye. But no, I enjoyed it. I didn't like the busyness and the queuing, but obviously, as I understand it, America's even worse in terms of the queuing.
Mate, if you went to the Hollywood one, you'd top yourself. It was the worst. It was full of bloody
Americans.
Yeah, the American one. I mean, I think I've been like 3 times now in 6 months. The American one is nowhere near as good as the Japanese one.
Yeah.
It's very, very downscaled. They don't control the access as well as the Japanese one. Like in the Japanese one, it's like we went through the door exactly 9 a.m. when it worked, and you have to use the app to get an entry ticket, and we got 12:30.
Yeah,
that's the minute the park opened.
Yeah.
In kind of like Hollywood, you can just like queue up and keep filling in.
Yeah,
and then there's like 45-minute queues for anything
like a festival,
remotely interactive. Like there'll be a 45-minute queue to touch your band on a Goomba. You know,
but we did.
It was literally a 90-minute queue to meet Mario and Luigi.
I feel for anyone whose first experience is the Hollywood one. I mean, they're opening it in Florida, which I understand is going to be the proper big one. So I'd hold off for that if you're an American.
But we did pass the time waiting by ticking off one of my bucket lists by going to the Jurassic Park ride, which I've always wanted to do, because the Universal Jurassic Park ride no longer exists. It's been replaced by Jurassic World ones, and I never got to do it. So I finally got to do it, albeit with a kind of Japanese guy at the start telling you how to do it. But no, that was a nice wee thing to tick off. Enjoyed that.
Very nice. Andy, what did you buy? A load of shite?
And we didn't get much chance to shop, to be honest. I mean, as Chris said, like we went into like some place in Osaka like an hour before it shut. You know, and I got some bits and bobs, but I've been like 1,000,000 times now. So I'm just like buying stuff for the kids, to be honest. Because I come home and they're like, "What have you got me, Daddy?" So I had to, because I refused to buy it for them the last time. So my suitcase was 50% full of novelty Nintendo World hats, a giant Cheep, which is the fish, and you squeeze the handles and its wings flap.
Nice.
And then I got like whatever the squid's called. You must know what the squid calls.
From Mario, the blooper.
Yeah.
Or blooper.
Okay. Blooper, whatever. Yeah, so I got those for the kids and a shit ton of eggs and stuff. Nothing particularly exciting. I mean, like we were at a studio every day or on a bullet train going somewhere else every day. Yeah. So
to be fair,
we didn't get a lot of chance to do it.
Half my case was stuff for the kid and for the wife, like loads of Hello Kitty and Sailor Moon shit. So, what can I say? I'm a family guy now.
Both. Yeah, you are the family guy of VGC.
Thanks.
Years have both let me down tremendously.
Coming from the quagmire of VGC.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I didn't realise our hotel in Kyoto was like the adjacent street to one of the red light districts.
Oh yeah, you were in fucking Shaggin City.
Yeah, without knowing it.
So
like every night in Kyoto at the river, everyone at kind of Bit Summit would go down drinking. One night, being the
and Chris would go to the red light district.
Being the conscientious worker, I said, "Listen, Andy, I'm all up for hijinks, but I'm
just going back for work.
One of us pricks needs to put some words on a page." So I would go back and write my daily Bit Summit coverage, which millions of people read, I can assure you. And there's still
more people read my tweets from the river.
Still very much. If you go on VGC right now and search for Bit Summit, no spaces, you'll get all 3 days of my coverage, which is highly recommended. Regardless, as I was walking home one night, and it was quite late, and some woman, Japanese woman, came over as I was walking down the street and says,
"What was her name?"
I didn't catch it. And said something like, I didn't catch it because I didn't go. She said, like I won't do the voice, but she said, "Massage? Do you want a massage?" And I was like, "No." She's like, 3,000 yen for a massage. I was like, "That seems really cheap." for like a mass.
Then I said deal.
So
it goes 2,000.
So I politely declined and went on, and then another woman asked me if I wanted a massage, and then another one, and I thought either I look really tense, or we're in a dodgy area here. So as soon as I got back to the hotel, I took a gamble and I googled sex areas in Kyoto, and got like apparently there's two major ones, and we were adjacent. We were on the street adjacent to one of them. So although we weren't right in amongst it, knees deep in it, I suppose you could say, we were getting some of the dregs that were dripping out off the side of the street and landing on our street, I suppose you could put it. So yeah, by all accounts, the 3,000 is a con to get you then to pay significantly more for a further subsequent massage centered on a specific area of the body.
Mm-hmm. I hope you got like papped doing that, looking like a disgraced geography.
I did nothing. I kept the head down, very politely said no. Because she'd already established that she spoke English, so she must have understood no.
Don't let anyone say that the VGC podcast isn't informative about the various sex areas of Japan. Speaking of sex areas, Chris, you've been playing Disney Illusion Island. How's that?
Speaking of sex areas, it's good. It's I played it on the flight back, which turned out not to be long enough because it was over in like 5 or 6 hours. It's fun. It's a Metroidvania, but with a kind of Mickey Mouse theme. It's kind of slightly aimed towards slightly younger players. You can't actually damage enemies in it. That's the kind of the gimmick, that it's not a violent Metroidvania. And it's good. It's got like a relatively funny storyline, although some of the jokes fall a bit flat. It's an interesting animation style. It's a bit like the new Mickey Mouse cartoons, which are on Disney Plus, and those are like genuinely hilarious, whereas this is only a bit funny. And yeah, it's pretty basic. It's what you would expect from a Metroidvania. You start with limited skills, and over time you earn like a ground pound move and the ability to swim and all this kind of stuff. And then without wanting to spoil anything, it throws in loads of twists at the end, which just get really convoluted and kind of ruin the story at the end a bit. So by the end of it, I was like, I think I'm done with this. So it's good. It's fine. It can be played in co-op for up to 4 players, and that's fun because there's actually like hug moves and stuff. That's like, it's fun to play with your kid, and I think that's what it's mainly been aimed for, because if a kid was to play this on their own, by the time they get to the end, the last couple of bosses are quite difficult, so they might struggle at the end, but it's fine. It's getting a 3 on the site, and it's one of those awkward ones where on aggregate sites that'll look like a 60, which won't look very good, but on VGC a 3 is like perfectly fine. It's like a if you've got the money for it and you fancy that kind of thing, you'll have a decent time with it. So yeah, it's good.
Sounds not bad. I have been playing Hee-Haw. Apart from it, I've been playing a bit of Bloodborne, but apart from that, I'm in this glorious little period where I'm just playing nothing, because there's just this dark cloud coming overhead, this dark Starfield shaped cloud. I had a dream the other night that everyone started putting up Starfield reviews, and Andy was like phoning me going, "Where's your fucking review?" And I was like, "Mate, it's July. It's July. I don't even have the game." And then I woke up, and for a few it was one of those dreams that for a few seconds after I woke up, I was like, "Oh, what did I do?" Then I looked at my phone. It was like the 25th of July.
Then you looked to the side. You looked to your side, and Andy was there in bed. Said, "Where's the review?" And you realised you're still in a dream.
Surrounded by monster cans. That's how I know it's a big game. If I start stress streaming about it, there's only a couple of games a year that happens to me, but when it dominates my thoughts that much, I'm like, okay, this is going to be a banger. But yeah, that's been the extent of what I've been playing. Andy, did you play games? You've just been chilling?
I just reviewed Pikmin 4, didn't I?
Oh, so you did? How was that? Feels like it was about 6 months ago at this point. How's Pikmin
same
4?
To me. Yeah. Well, I guess everyone's been playing it for the last week now. Who wants it anyway? It's one of my favourite Nintendo series, but it takes a while to get going, that game. I mean, it's very, very good, but I've been playing that game for over 10 hours, and I was ready to I didn't think it was very good. I mean, it's a good game, but for the hardcore fans, I mean, it's very much propositioned as a perfect entry point, because it's never sold very well in context of Nintendo. It's always been quite a demanding game in terms of you know, Nintendo, Mario, Zelda, etc. I mean, it's a bloody top-down strategy game where monsters come and eat all of your cute characters. So they stressed to the point where they even gave us a presentation at a preview event. Like, this is a much less stressful game, and we've looked at the previous ones, and it's a great entry point, and blah, blah. And then you pick it up, and it's like a lot of those changes are there, and they're very, very good, very, very subtle, and you're pleased to see that it hasn't really compromised on those previous games. It's just made smart changes like the to the controls and to the structure of the game. However, the first 10 to 15 hours of that game is the same game, essentially. You've played 3 times. And considering the previous one came out 10 years ago, you know, and I was playing it and I'm like, I'm a bit bored. Like, it's like, oh, I've got the blue Pikmin, and then he can go in the water and I'll get some more treasure. And, you know, you're solving the same puzzles, fighting the same monsters. However, it's a ruse, right? You know, after that point, the game, there's like, once you finish the game, there's like a whole, it's like, right, now here's the proper game. And they add like tons more content, which, oh wow, there's actually new mechanics and new ideas, and it's a bit more challenging. I mean, the game overall is not a challenging game because you can rewind it at any time. But that really saved the game for me, like all of the kind of the latter content, where it started to, you saw that they had really top-loaded a lot of the kind of simple, accessible stuff. They kind of wall off a lot of the more challenging content. And overall, yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. I mean, it says a lot that, you know, I reviewed it probably, a week ago now, isn't it? I guess over a week ago. And I'm still playing it, like going back to get all the kind of the last treasures and, you know, help save the last kind of like crew members and stuff. It's good fun, especially if you've not played one before. You should definitely give it a go.
Nice. Well, you can check out that review on the site. You can check out Chris's upcoming review. That's today, is it, Chris?
It'll be
well,
today, yeah. By the time you listen to this, it should be up on the site.
Good stuff. Coming up next week, top of my head, I don't think there's much. I want to play that Remnant 2. A lot of people are talking about that. They're saying like it's the Dark Souls of shooters, and
everything you just said couldn't have been more generic. Like, I switched off at the word Remnant. It's like, go and search for Remnant and see how many games have got the word Remnant in it.
Look,
like why do they call it like Remnant Chronicles?
Yeah, Revelation.
I know that's literally our website name, but
I'm going to be.
They didn't have to get a .com for their game name.
I'm going to be this. This will appeal to neither of you two, and hopefully at least some people listening. But out today on Steam, there's a test for a game called Stampede Racing Royale, which is like a 60-player karting battle royale game. So it's basically Fall Guys meets Mario Kart. So I'm going to be kind of testing that over the weekend just to see if it's any good. So if anyone's on my Twitter, I'll probably stream a bit on Twitch or something just to see. It might be awful. It might be like the next Fall Guys. So we'll see.
Nice. Well,
I mean, there's a whole ton of financial results next week as well. By the way,
I can't wait. I cannot
including. Well, that's where the news comes from.
I know. No, that's fine.
You review your Mickey Mouse game. I'll cover the financial results. Nintendo, including Nintendo, and I, as a note, like, I am ticking down the time until they start saying something about this next console. Yeah. I'm still fully expecting it this year. It's going to come ahead of one of these financial results. This one might come soon. It probably too soon. It might be the next one after this, which I'm guessing is maybe like September-ish. But I'm fully expecting them to say something. I don't mean like, here's a console. I mean like, we are working on a console. It's called Project Switch 2.
I hope they address the debate over whether Splatoon focuses heavier on girls than boys.
Yeah,
because I feel that wasn't properly answered last time.
Can we crowdfund enough money to be the people who ask one of these ridiculous questions?
I'll do it. I will fly over and I will sit in and I'll ask whatever question you want.
Any excuse to go back to Japan.
When is F-Zero coming out?
Can you put the old Pokemon games on the Switch? What is wrong with you?
How many polygons?
Speaking of which, Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons on Switch today.
I saw that.
Good games. That. Play Ages first.
No thanks.
If you're going to play.
Why would you play both?
No, but you know when you play one, you then get a password that links to the second one. So you might play them one then the other, and they both join together and make a big story. If you play Ages first, the season's boss, the final boss is harder, so you'll be more powerful for it, basically.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this podcast in 2004.
2001, mate. Come on.
Oh, sorry, I was 6 years old. Sorry, I didn't realise what year it was.
What? Part-timer.
Only one thing I remember about 2001, and it was a tragedy. You can send your questions, comments and concerns to podcast@videogameschronicle.com. Thanks for listening to this show. You can follow myself on Twitter @JordanMidler, Andy @AndyPlatonic,
Don't you mean on X?
Scully1888, sorry, on X. You can get my I'm going to start putting my payment details on there. Thank you to the great Grant Kirkhope for the VGC podcast theme song. We'll be back next week. Say goodbye, Chris.
Goodbye, Chris.
Say goodbye, Andy.
Bye.
If you're out and about at the Glasgow-based Pokemon pre-releases this weekend, you might see me. If you want a square go, I am more than obliging, and we will see you next week. Thanks for watching this episode. Remember, all new episodes of VGC, a video game podcast, will be posted to YouTube on Thursday. However, if you want the podcast slightly earlier in the day, you can get the audio feed on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next week.